Scott Hambrick of scotthambrick.com and onlinegreatbooks.com and the Online Great Books podcast and Music and Ideas podcast. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about cultural upheaval today. This talk has its origins in a live stream I did a couple days ago. And on those live streams, you can follow me there. I'm at Scott Hambrick. It's not really a chat because there's not two-way communication, or at least two-way voice communication, but I take questions and comments from people, and we riff on that stuff. And this talk here comes from that, and an Online Great Books podcast that Carl Shute and I did a couple of weeks ago. We did a show about Herbert Marcuse's essay "Repressive Tolerance." It was written in 1965, and in this essay, Marcuse, you can go listen to that show at the Online Great Books podcast, by the way, if you care. But right at the very beginning of this essay, he says that the conclusion reached is that the realization of the objective of tolerance would call for intolerance toward prevailing policies, attitudes, opinions, and the extension of tolerance to policies, attitudes, and opinions which are outlawed or suppressed. And then if you go on to read more, he says, what is proclaimed and practiced as tolerance today is in many of its most effective manifestations serving the causes of oppression. Let me sum this up a little more. Marcuse says that culture right now is oppressive. It can only be oppressive because normal or good people tolerate it. And he thinks to usher in greater tolerance, we must be less tolerant. And he makes long laundry lists of things that we need to be less tolerant of. And it essentially is almost everything in society. And he calls for changing the way history is taught, or perhaps which history is taught, so that the normal person will become less tolerant of preconditions in the society. This would explain tearing down statues, for example, or deplatforming certain people that talk about certain parts of our history. And this intolerance that he calls for, this intolerance for the status quo, is really what's behind the snowflakes. So people on the right love to call people on the left snowflakes and pussies and oversensitive. Listen, guys, you're wrong about that. You're wrong about that. They're actually not insulted personally. There are a few, right? You'll see these crying Karens that are insulted personally, but most of them aren't insulted personally. They're not actually a snowflake like you think they are. They have been taught that they must be utterly intolerant of the things that you and I think are normal. They're not snowflakes, guys. They're not pussies. They're not pushovers. They're not overly sensitive. They are living out and acting on Herbert Marcuse's philosophy here, where he says that we have to be intolerant of repressive tolerance. If there's a word you use that they think is contributing to oppression, then you have to be destroyed for using that word. It's not because they can't take words, it's that it's part of their political praxis. This is how they do politics. And by the way, they're winning. So when you look at them and point and snicker and say they're snowflakes, you're fucking losing the political game. Furthermore, you probably don't even understand what the political game actually is. So you continue to write letters to your senator or your congressman, or letters to the editor, and cause precisely nothing to happen. Meanwhile, they are winning the political game. Stop being so smug about this. Figure out where this comes from. Go read Repressive Tolerance by Herbert Marcuse, and then you'll see. They seek out to destroy this culture that we have. Well, you know what Socrates he'd say? He'd say, well, what is culture? I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure what culture is. I'm not sure. It seems to me to be something that emerges from our work ways, from our food, from our entertainments. If you go to Infogalactic, you'll see that Edward Burnett Taylor, he's an anthropologist at the turn of the 20th century, he says that culture is that complex whole which includes knowledge, belief, art, morals, law, custom, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by man as a member of society. I'll go farther than that. I think like I said earlier, I think it arises from our ways, right? The way we work, the tools we work with, the environment we work in, the food that grows around us, our entertainments. That's where I think culture, or proper culture, I think that's where proper culture comes from. And they are seeking to tear this down. Well, if they're trying to tear it down, what should you do? I think it's pretty obvious that we probably can't stop them. We don't have the backing of our government. We don't have the political will to stop them. But I think there's some good news here, actually. A lot of this culture that they're destroying, I don't think is actually real culture. What is the local cuisine of your area? Probably don't have one. It's Chili's and Applebee's and whatever chain restaurants that are there. Nobody teaches their kids to cook anymore. What is the entertainment? What is the local entertainment? What is the local music style from where you're from? They probably don't have one, right? You watch whatever movies that they produce for you. You listen to whatever music they put on the radio for you. I'm from Oklahoma. We're supposed to like country music here, but country top 40 is manufactured disgusting garbage. A lot of people like it, but it's awful, awful shit. It's not organic. It's not real culture. And like right now, here I just looked at country top 40 for this week. 10,000 Hours is the name of the song with Justin Bieber. How is that going to be country music? Luke Bryan, Blake Shelton with Gwen Stefani. Like, what is this stuff? What is this stuff? Now, like I said, there might be some people that claim they like it, but they're being given this. And it's not organic culture. If I'm right, and culture emerges from our work as well, what kind of culture are you going to have working at the cubicle farm? I think that this is that my idea that culture arises partially out of our work. I think that's pretty obvious. Look at cowboy culture. Where'd that come from? Where do the clothes come from? Where does the music come from? What does that whole attitude and aesthetic and way of life come from? It comes from the work. It comes from working with cattle in Texas grassland or similar. That's where it comes from. I think our culture here in Oklahoma comes from the fact that we weren't even a state before 1907. It was settled mostly by pioneers, whether they were people that did land runs or Indians, like my wife's folks. Spent a lot of time in the oil patch, a lot of time in manufacturing for the oil and gas business, a lot of time engineering and learning how to bring those minerals out of the ground and bring them to market. That has influenced our culture. And in fact, the culture of Oklahoma is very similar to the culture in Bakersfield, California. A lot of people think that that's probably because there were so many Oklahomans that moved from here during the Dust Bowl to Bakersfield. That probably contributed, but it's also an agricultural area that's involved in oil and gas. The Oklahoma folkways, the music that we would have brought there, and the food we would have brought there, and the attitude we brought there, wouldn't have persisted if the other conditions like the business and ways of living weren't there. A lot of people say, "Well, God, Bakersfield's a shithole." Hey, listen, stay out of there, right? You don't like Oklahoma? There's only 4 million of us here. We're just slightly more than 1% of the country. Don't like it? Stay out. It's fine. It's ours. What is yours? Well, I think that we have an opportunity here as the left is trying to destroy this culture. I think there's a lot to celebrate there. I'm not that interested in another Applebee's. I'm not that interested in another cubicle farm job. I'm not that interested in Disney telling me what movie or television show or even music that I should be listening to. We have an opportunity here to create culture, and that's how we fight them. We can't really stop them. Like I said, we don't have the backing of the state. If we actually do something to stop someone from destroying something we cherish, we're going to be incarcerated probably. But we can create things. We can create culture, and I think the way you do that is start small, but start right now. It's Monday. I want you to start right now. Here's how you're going to do it. Here's how you're going to do it. We're going to do just a few small things this week, and then next week we're going to build on them. Thing number one, you're going to get $1 worth of revenue from a business that you own. $1. Hell, a nickel. You're gonna enter into some business activity that you direct where you meet the needs of a client, and you're going to charge for that, and you're going to bring in some revenue from that this week. Right? We're not going to do an IPO. We're not going to kick the door open. We're going to have a round of stupid funding from some VC person who doesn't want you to create what you need, but wants you to create what they want. We're going to create a small business that gets one piece, one quantum of revenue this week. You're going to do it with your skills, your ingenuity, your work, and your care. Who knows what that is? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's not a sustainable business that you're going to be working in 3 years. So if you offer somebody to mow somebody's yard today for $5 and you lose money on it, I don't care. Go do it. Go do it. Get started, and let's get moving in the direction of taking our own living out of the corporate environment and taking our living from others. And we're going to have economic freedom. We're going to have economic freedom by directing our own business concerns and doing business with the people that want what we have. When we do trade, we're never completely economically free. You can't just do whatever the heck you want. You got to please a customer. But when we own our own businesses and we do it right, we have lots of customers. And when you work in the corporate environment and sell your labor, you have one customer. And that one customer might be staffed up everywhere you go, from HR to your boss to the boss's boss, and even to the clients of that customer, may be staffed up with folks who are essentially playing out Marcuse's playbook and could cancel you. Not only that, but you can't dictate your hours. You can't work the way you want. You can't make your own culture there. They talk about corporate culture. There's a reason they talk about it like that, guys. These people understand what the game is, and that is to control culture. They are in the process of destroying the old one. We need to build a new one. Step one, get some revenue. Step two, we need to quit eating this food that they're giving us. Most of the food that is in the grocery store that you will buy isn't really food. It's sort of 3D printed. It's extruded, manufactured, and it's manufactured out of corn, vegetable oils, salt, and high fructose corn syrup. Most of the foods that you see are made of that. And they'll have a few other things in there to make it taste more or less beefy or more or less dessert-like or whatever, but it's highly manufactured and it's not real. That food is going to make you a homogeneous product that is exactly what they want. If you've ever raised animals, you know that you can control a great deal of the result you get from your animal husbandry by carefully managing their rations. Of course, you want to manage the genetics of the animals that you're raising as well. If you're in the farming business, and I think there's some attempts to do that as well in our culture, whatever the hell that is. But they're also controlling your rations, and it's no wonder that testosterone levels are falling, fertility levels are falling, depression is up, drug addiction is up. The food is no good, and it gives you no control over your life. So remember, we're going to make some revenue this week. We're also going to grow some of our food this week. We're going to start. Of course, you can't plant a tomato today and eat the thing in a minute later today. I understand that, but you can plant or get yourself on the way towards creating some of your own food, and you need to do that today. It's almost time to get a fall garden in for some of us folks here farther south. Up north, you might have missed that boat, but that's okay. Make a plan. Start preparing a bed. Make a plan. Figure out where you're going to put those chickens. Make a plan. Get started. Actually move and act and do. Remember, they are moving and acting and doing. They are more politically effective than we are. We need to act today. So we're going to make some money. And we're going to get on the road towards creating our own food. And we're not going to stop, right? You're going to do something today. You're going to do something later this week. And we're going to keep it up until we're creating more and more of our own revenue and more of our own food. I also want you to take control of your entertainments. Don't entertain yourself with what you're given, right? Don't turn on Netflix and entertain yourself with that thing they give you. Create your own entertainment, right? Learn a card game. Invite some people over for cards. Try to play some music. Learn a new game. Go see people you know. Invite people over to your house. Don't sit in front of the machine that delivers entertainment into your eyes. You know, one of the reasons that we are losing is that we actually don't have a culture. We gave that thing away, and we gave the responsibility for it away, I should say, to corporate interests who you may call record labels, you may call movie studios, or you may call TV networks. And those groups of people create our art now, mostly. And that's not okay. Stop consuming that shit and start creating some of that entertainment on your own. It's not a big ask to make just a little bit of money this week, to get started on the road towards creating our own food, and to start taking control of our entertainments. All of these things are going to make you more resilient anyway, and out of them you're going to see new culture arise. You know, it's not entirely bad. It's not entirely bad that that some of these big cities are being shown to be unlivable. I've thought that for a long time. It's not entirely bad. There are a lot of opportunities out there. There's a lot of... I was thinking about all this, and Mike Cernovich on Twitter posted that he says, I'm so optimistic for young people. No new huge wars. Wealth is being destroyed in real estate. You may be able to afford homes soon. He says, only loser fuck men under 30 are worried about the future. Never been more opportunities with minimal downside risks. I think Cerno is right. There are lots of risks, but the fact that those risks exist across the board makes the risk in front of you less, or at least more attractive, right? For example, what is the risk in starting your own business? Well, Scott, the business environment's terrible, and there aren't, the economy's awful. Yeah, I know, but you don't have a business today. So if you try to start one and you fail, you might be out some time. If you're careful, you're not going to be out very much money. We're not going to start a giant company. We're going to start small. And you're at enormous risk anyway. The economy is bad. Business is suffering. You're in danger of losing your job. as best as I can tell, there's probably, well, let's go through the math. Almost everyone under 18 is unemployed. Maybe they should be unemployed. Maybe people under 18 shouldn't work. I don't know. But that's certainly normal. Not very many people over 65 are employed. So how many people are under 18 and under 65? I don't know. Unemployment is also very, very high, at least as measured by the government. I think that conservatively, by conservative estimates, that there is probably only something like 40 or 45% of the people in the country are working. It might even be lower than that. So when the government tells us that unemployment is 15%, that's utter and complete rubbish. Babies aren't working. People in nursing homes aren't working. People, and in addition, lots of other people that we would expect to work aren't working. It's bad. But you're at risk right now of becoming one of those people in those numbers. Get your own business going, because that diversifies your income sources and gives you economic freedom that you wouldn't have if you were just working as a wage earner down at Corporate Inc. And be looking around. There are opportunities, because a lot of the people that have been traditionally winning in this culture are starting to lose. Real estate values in certain places are going to fall. As those real estate prices fall, people who traditionally couldn't have afforded those may be able to, in fact, afford those properties. Somebody's going to deuce on this idea, but you can buy square blocks of Detroit right now for very, very low prices. And a lot of people might say, well, why would I want to live in Detroit? Well, I don't know. Do you want to rent forever? Or do you want to get together with 10 of your friends, or 3 of your friends, or 1 of your friends, or your brother, pool your resources, pool your efforts, and buy 2 city blocks of a blighted area and build back a city, build back a community, build up some culture? Guys, we've got to think differently. We continue to think in this old political paradigm, and it isn't working. It's making us lose. And you know what? What if I'm wrong? What if what I'm talking about here isn't actually going to be good political action? It's okay. Who's going to regret working on building a business? Who's going to regret finding opportunities to buy real estate so you can start clean and start new, or finding other distressed properties that are opportunities in this environment? There are a lot of businesses right now that are worth literally 10% of what they were worth in January. When I say worth 10% of what they were worth, that's what I actually mean. I don't mean people are asking 10% less for those businesses. They're worth 10% of what they were. Go find some of those businesses and try to buy them. There are going to be people trying to sell, baby boomers, trying to exit the business world, who own small businesses that are extraordinarily distressed right now. Go in there and swing a deal. Go in there and offer them a buyout. Go in there and find a way to cut a deal. You may have to talk to 50 of these people that own these plumbing companies and small businesses across the country to find a way to make a deal. Do it. You can afford it maybe in this business environment where you couldn't have when everything was hot. Get out there and make this stuff happen. Take it back. Create culture. Create economic freedom. Create entertainments. Control your food. And then from that, you'll find that you can have a family, that you have something to offer, that you have something you care about. And also you have something that they can't take from you. I can't believe it. I guess I'm defending them, right? There's a lot of the culture currently that that they want destroyed that I guess I want destroyed as well. I don't agree with them 100%. The things that they want to see gone and the things Hambrick wants to see gone don't make completely overlapping diagrams. But I think that I think we can benefit here, guys. But we'll have to do it. Remember, they're not snowflakes. They are trying to control culture. You are losing. You need to control culture. What ways can you do that? I think we've outlined a few here. Try to figure out what you can do. Maybe you have other avenues that are better than what I've come up with. Good. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you have a whole lot of better ideas than me. But we've got to go control our culture. Guys, go to scotthambrick.com and, I don't know, put it in your favorite blog, RSS feed, reader, or whatever. Go subscribe to the Online Great Books podcast or the Music and Ideas podcast, or go follow me on DLive. And I'm just getting ready to start posting all of my video and audio on full30.com, full30.com. So I'm trying to put my stuff out there in places where I don't think that we're going to get deplatformed, because I need to control culture. I need to create content. I need to create, and I need to make sure that I disseminate that to people who care about what I do and that I care about, and we cut out the middleman. So I hope you find opportunities this week to do the same. But by all means, listen, guys, act, okay? If you didn't act this week, you're the problem.